When it comes time to end the tenancy for whatever reason, it's important that the tenants leave the home with a good reputation and get their security bond back.
If there is rent owing greater than the bond, or a court has terminated the agreement, the tenant may have their name placed on a tenancy database, which may jeopardise their ability to rent properties in the future.
Property owners or their agents must abide by the notice periods outlined in the Residential Tenancies Act and be reasonable when making claims on the tenant's security bond.
A tenant or owner on a fixed-term lease who doesn't want to renew needs to give 30 days notice before the lease expires. If neither tenant nor owner give notice to terminate, the fixed-term lease will automatically become a periodic lease when 60 days notice of termination is required. If a tenant on a fixed-term lease needs to vacate the property before the expiry date, they will have to pay rent until a replacement tenant is found, and also compensate the property owner for any other reasonable costs, such as advertising. For a periodic lease to be terminated, the tenant must give at least 21 days notice and the owner or agent must give 60 days notice. During this period, prospective tenants can be shown through the property after giving the existing tenant reasonable notice. The tenant is entitled to be present during these home opens. In cases where a home has been repossessed by the mortgagee, such as a bank, a tenant will be given 30 days notice to move out.
If the tenant wants to renew the lease for another fixed term, the property owner may decide to increase the rent depending on market conditions. However, if the tenant considers the rent increase to be excessive or unreasonable, under certain conditions the rent hike can be challenged in the magistrate's court. In any event, the rent increase cannot take effect until after the first 30 days of the new agreement.
The greatest number of complaints received by Consumer Protection each year relate to tenants not happy with the amount of bond money they get back. That's why it's important to have a property condition report that clearly outlines the existing damage to the property at the beginning of the tenancy, in case there are any disagreements at the end of the tenancy.
The property owner or their agent needs to give tenants an opportunity to be present during the final inspection and provide an updated property condition report within 14 days of the tenancy ending. The tenant may be liable for the cost of cleaning, minor repairs or replacement of items if the property is not in the same clean and undamaged condition as at the start of the lease. If disputes over the bond can't be resolved by negotiation, tenants can go to the magistrate's court.
If the tenant or property owner believes the tenancy agreement has not been honoured, they can issue a breach notice which specifies at least 14 days for the breach to be rectified. For example, this could be a notice from the tenant demanding payment from the owner for urgent repairs, or a notice from the owner demanding outstanding rent be paid by the tenant. If no action is taken, the matter can go before the magistrate's court to issue an order, which may be for the owner to compensate the tenant for repairs, or for the tenant to be evicted for non-payment of rent.
Evictions cannot occur in Western Australia without a court order, and property owners and managers must have reasonable grounds for the eviction, such as non-payment of rent for a lengthy period, excessive damage, nuisance caused, or evidence of criminal activity. If a tenancy agreement is terminated by a court order, this information may be placed on a tenancy database. A tenant's name may also be put on the database if they vacate the property with outstanding rent which is greater than the amount of the security bond. So it's always a good idea to leave on good terms.
Consumer Protection has a range of fact sheets and information booklets on tenancy laws that provide more detail for tenants, property owners and property managers. Further information and downloadable standard forms can be found on the Consumer Protection website, or you can contact us by email at consumer@commerce.wa.gov.au or by calling 1300 30 40 54.